So when you guys are kind of knee deep in the middle of the season and things seem swirling above your heads, kind of what's the stuff that keeps you up at night? Is it the show running duties? Is it the writing duties? Is it the I gotta make edit cuts but get this episode in time? Kind of what's keeping you up at night? Why don't you start with you guys and move our way down?
When does it stop? I think especially in a show in its first year, and you're trying to discover how to produce a show, how to make a show, especially a show of our magnitude. It's just trying to figure out how to get the pattern. How are we going to do this show? And finding a rhythm and with the crew and just everything that comes from nuts and bolts of production, I think is the biggest chore.
What keeps me up at night is I keep thinking, Greg could have told me. He should have warned me about this ridiculous job.
Aaron?
I was going to say we are in the middle of production right now, so your question makes me think I've got to get out of here right now. No, what keeps you up at night is the totality of it. Just you want to produce the best show you can and all the things involved in it constantly swirling in your mind, so it's everything.
All good answers and all true. But if I had to nail it down to one thing, I'd say story, keeping the story moving, keeping it interesting to us and to hopefully the people watching, coming up with it day in and day out.
Yeah. Now you guys, obviously your show's off the air, but I'm sure you have headaches and stuff you remember from those good old days.
Well, I think mostly what kept me up most nights was pussy.
That's the sound clip for tomorrow.
That's what got me to sleep.
To me, like my turn. Yeah. Take it, baby.
David?
Peter's wife. It's always the writing. It's always the writing. That is what show running is to me, and that's what as a matter of fact, if there was some production nightmare where we might have to shut down, I would be thrilled. It's an extra day to get the story ready.
You guys obviously all came into this as writers, but then you're thrust into this show running, quote unquote, responsibilities that you have to start managing people and worry about budgets and worry about other stuff. How do you kind of keep focused on the writing and saying that's kind of has to be the number one priority while everything else is swirling around you?
I think it's easy to stay focused on the writing because it's the only thing that gives you real pleasure and the only thing that you can really control. So much of show running is horse shit, really, where you're trying to deal with networks and budgets and actors, which is horrible. That's almost, you need a cattle prod for that. You're getting shocked all the time just because you're close enough. Those are the unpredictable things. The only thing that you can control is the actual writing, the actual storytelling. And truthfully, that's what does keep you up at night, because you're either going, oh my God, what am I going to do? Or you're going, oh, this is a great idea, and I've got to get out of bed and write it down. So that's probably the thing because that at least you can control.
Right. Guys else want to answer that? Aaron, maybe talk about that a little bit?
Well, I would say one of the things is that writing, it is the best, it's the most fun part, but it's also the scariest part. So sometimes if you're afraid that you're not going to be able to come up with a good idea, you can just say, I need to watch some casting, otherwise, the show won't get cast. So it's a challenge to get to the writing. It's great, but it's also, for me, the biggest fear also.
Vince?
I love these two answers, but it's to me, the writing is the most important part, but it's also the least fun part for me. I wish I was more like you two guys, because it's like that's the part where you're hitting yourself in the head with a hammer over and over again. But the way it gets done, I find, is that I don't visit the set as often, because in the first season I was on the set all the time, and I'd much rather be picking what color the shirt is that the main character's wearing, or the locations, or all that stuff's much more fun to deal with for me than the writing. But none of that matters if as important as it is, unless the writing gets done. So. I love the way you guys see it. I wish I was more like that.
Do you other guys, David, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, these happy guys, I'll bet they just love being in the writer's room, grinning all day long. It's control, and if I see an episode, if I'm up in the editing room and I see something that I didn't like the casting choice, or the shirt isn't the right color, I can go home and not feel. I just blame somebody else for that. I can't blame anybody else for the writing, so that's what keeps me worrying about that.
Aaron, talk a little bit about Suits, kind of how that project came along. You guys had your first year last year. The ratings were great. Reviews were terrific. Talk about that experience.
Okay. First of all, I just wanted to say, because I didn't talk about our writers' room,
sure.
and my writers are here tonight, so if I don't say something, it's going to be tough tomorrow. But they really do a ton of the work. We map out together in the beginning of the year kind of an arc, and we veer from it a little bit when we can. But we'll go through the process of breaking a story. They'll often do it. I'll come in, and then we'll make tweaks, and then we'll have an outline and a script, and then I usually rewrite together with the writer of the individual episode, and that's what makes it fun and enjoyable. So I thank them.
Sure.
But as far as the process of the of Suits, it was the strike, and the strike was ending, and I had been struggling trying to become a comedy writer. I had been staffed once. Had a few freelance episodes, and my agent suggested I maybe write, a spec pilot to try and get staffed. And I was going to write a half-hour. It was supposed to be like Entourage, and as it came out, it kind of felt like it should be an hour long. And I based it on Wall Street because I used to work as an investment banker. And I just wrote it. I never thought in a million years we'd sell it or it would get made. It was really just my attempt to get staffed. None of you guys seem to respond to it. But anyway. But, my agent liked it. He thought he had a relationship over at USA. We took it to them and hooked up with producing partners Hypnotic, and it worked out.
When you wrote the pilot for Breaking Bad, did you originally have it based in Albuquerque, or is that something that just came about?
I based it in Riverside, California for two reasons. Originally, when I wrote it, because I knew a real DEA agent who was at the Riverside DO district office out there, and I was thinking of him, and I was thinking of Riverside because it's its proximity to where I sleep at night, and its huge raging meth problem. But which he told me about. But unfortunately,
that's on the brochure, by the way.
Yeah, it's a lovely county that also. The truth is, it does not have a lock on the meth problem, and any state in the union has a meth problem, unfortunately. And Sony came to me and said, why don't you think about shooting in New Mexico instead, because they have this wonderful 25% rebate, which means your dollars will go a lot further. And I said, yeah, why not? And which is the smartest thing I ever did, because being that close to the set would mean I would gravitate toward it and spend more time on the set. And I'd like to believe that I'm needed there. And the truth is, that's hubris or whatever the proper, that's ego. That is not true, because I have excellent cast and excellent directors and excellent producers, and I don't need to be there. And the ship runs just fine without me around. But where I am most needed is with my writers in the writers' room. All of us working together to break these things. So. That was a good lesson, that first season. I got very lucky, because I dodged a real bullet. Because if we had had a shutdown that first season, we would have never started back up again. I can't imagine. So I just feel like I got won the lottery a couple times over with this thing during the evolution of it.
I touched on it before, but Rescue Me and House obviously just recently ended their runs, and I'm not exaggerating when I say two of the best and best reviewed and some of the best shows of the past couple 10 years. When you guys are writing the finale, do you feel that pressure, like, this has got to really be good? This can't be, something from, this can't be an episode 16 from season 4 that we could kind of, look back and say it wasn't our best work. But this is what people are going to remember after they watch these shows. Did you kind of feel that pressure when you were writing those scripts?
I'm going to go first this time, so you don't make a
because people
pussy
actually
joke.
watched your show. Go ahead.
I did, and I resented the hell out of that, because I think the show should be. It was self-imposed, but I resented it because the show, it's a series. It's a series of episodes. It should be judged on the episodes and the totality. And it also annoyed me when we got all this attention for episode 100. It seems like such a random number. If we had 9 fingers, would we be celebrating episode 81?
I just want to point out, in case anyone doesn't know, I wrote the finale of the Larry Sanders Show. Thank you. And but it was the same thing. And when I wrote that with Gary Shandling, you've not heard of him, but anyway, but with Shandling, when I wrote that last episode, this is going to sound. You want to talk about Pollyannish? I would like that. All right, I put a Post-it note on my computer, and it said "love," Now, this is for the Larry Sanders Show, of all things. You know, mean, shitty, backstabbing people. I put the word love to remind myself how much I loved the characters, how much I was going to miss writing them, and what the show then had meant to me as a writer. So it is, you bring a lot to those, to finales.
When you guys see cable shows here that are doing, 10, 13 episodes a year, and you're like in the 22-episode quagmire, you just kind of want to take a gun and kill these guys? It's like, oh, they got it so easy while you're trying to struggle through 22? I mean,
23.
23?
Insanely jealous.
I think Nina's going to ask for 25 next year.
Not just the volume, but all my idols on the end of
Yeah, I mean, talk about this, that struggle of trying to get so many episodes kind of through that pipeline.
It's basically, I mean, the production, the money, the money means a certain number of production days, and they're roughly similar. But it would give you, and we keep finding ourselves saying, if we only had another week to write the script and another week to cut it, and that's sort of crudely the difference seems to be. Similar amount of time to produce it, shoot it, but a lot less time to write them. I mean, we just started our room again last week, and we're 3 weeks out. So you go. But here's what I like. I mean, I've got a feature that I worked on for, I got a call from my agents about last week. I've been working on it for 8 years. Even the fastest turnaround I ever had was The Dark Knight. It took, 2.5 years. What I love about this medium is the immediacy of it. You go. You take your precious bullshit, you put it away, and you go. And that's very different. It's very different. It's a lot of fun.
People love their comedy shows, but people feel, I say, really invested in their dramas. Like they really know these characters and they want to know these characters. Obviously, you see the blogs on Mad Men and on all these really great shows. Do you like to interact with your fans via social media or anything else? Do you kind of want to be a little bit standoffish and not going to get too involved?
No, you don't. You cannot get involved with fans because I've done it. It's been a disaster, let me tell you. First of all, the whole it wasn't consensual thing comes up, and then I said, you're a fan, for Christ's sake, what's more, No, here's the thing. It's good and bad because what you said is absolutely true. People love their dramas, and they become passionate about them and proprietary to the point that they know more than you do about what it should be. And we unfortunately live in this democratic age of the internet, which gives everyone the power to say whatever the f they want and put it in writing, and then they get to look at the screen and go, look, I'm a writer. I wrote something. So everybody has that. They can reach you if you let them. I think I think there's nothing good can come from it. I really don't. I think it's like an actor with a script. It's like that's a 5-year-old with a Glock. It's like so dangerous. I mean, I went on some website like 4 or 5 years ago. I thought, I shall come down from the mount and I shall give these fans of my show the information that they crave so greatly. And I said, well, this is actually what we were thinking of in that show. Well, fuck you. What? Well, I didn't, what are you talking about? And I tried to, then I said, well, hold on now. Let me explain where you're wrong. No, that was even worse. Fuck you. Yeah. It was a fucking bloodbath. Never again. Never. I want to hear any of you guys say that you...
I agree. I started tweeting for about a day. And it was the same thing. These people who apparently rabidly love the product you've created feel nothing inconsistent about hating you with a burning passion and blaming you for everything that's gone wrong, that they view as having gone wrong. And so I just, 80% of the people who are out there are very nice and very lovely and say very nice things. And then, 10% miss Lisa Cuddy and really hate me for that. And again, I then circle back to, first of all, you need to do it, I guess, in some capacity we've reached a day and age when you can be part of the PR machine, and that's important, and it is important. But again, I circle back to you got to write the show you want to write, and they're on there to tell you what show you should write, and you can't. I'm sorry, you can't listen to that.
Well, I think that's the Dan Harmon thing of it all, where you're really listening to your core audience and writing to them and trying to please a core audience and ignoring another audience, and apparently the executives at Sony. I have no idea, but you know, that's that issue. And I mean, it's two parts to it, because of course, to have somebody that passionate about your show, it's sort of a wonderful thing. I mean, isn't that the thing that you can sort of hope for? But man, does it go bad. Yeah. It just goes bad.
It's really
fast.
kind of stunning. It's fascinating psychologically, because they really, I mean, that the fact that they take it so personally is wonderful, but their ability to really, I mean, I pull up my phone, find some tweets I've got. They really, I don't understand it completely, but you know, it's like, from my point of view, it's like I got somebody a present that they liked one year, and then the next year I got them a similar present, and they liked it, and they were grateful, and it's very nice. And the next year I got them a similar present, they liked it, and the next year I got them a present, and they hated it, and they hated me for having brought them that present. I don't get it.
Short attention span. What about you guys? Do you read the blogs and the Twitters and everything and kind of see what people are saying for Suits, Aaron? Are you reading
I was going
everything?
to say, I had a slightly different experience. I was a big fan of this show, and I went to see the show creator speak. I think it was Rescue Me, and he tried to tell me, and I was like, that is bullshit. I am a fan. No, I go on Twitter just for fun. I need to relax. We come home. I've been working really late, and to wind down, I look on Twitter. I answer a question or two here. But I would never. I agree. You can't be affected by what people want the show to be.
That's also
you'll never be able to please.
Because quite often they say things and you go, yeah, they're right too, which is almost worse. Because like dailies, you can't undo it.
Yeah.
And it's the other thing. I mean, just the internet. I mean, everybody's done the Google yourself thing, which is a disaster. Because you go Peter Tolan, and there are millions. Because you know, I've done quite a few movies, I guess. Some shit. Don't jump on me. Come on. And you do quite a few movies and TV shows, so every credit has millions. So you go, oh, millions, whoa. And now you start to go through. Peter Tolan is a whore. Peter Tolan, who used to be able to write. Peter Tolan, who clearly has lost his sense of humor. Peter Tolan, who has a head injury. Peter Tolan, who has it's just one bad thing after the next. Fuck the internet and Al Gore. Can I ask a question of these guys? Absolutely. From the? Now your show's on CBS, correct, guys? Do you find that your work is extremely structured in terms of what that network does? Are there certain rules that CBS has in terms of how you story structure, where your acts have to end? What you don't feel like you have a lot of that input? And I'm not asking like I have some inside information. I'm just asking.
No, I kind of felt the same way I did when we first started making. I came from the independent film world. We first started making a studio film, and I couldn't believe they were actually letting us do this shit. And I kept waiting for the committee of people who would come along and measure shit and tell you were doing it wrong. We haven't had that experience at CBS at all. Part of the reason why we took the show there in the first place was I felt, and Peter Roth felt, and J.J. Abrams felt that it was a natural fit. The concept we were pitching kind of naturally suggested, you know, it's New York, it's 8 million people, it's a story every week, and so it naturally kind of fit very close to what they do already, but hopefully a little different, a little weirder, a little kind of out there. So it was sort of and the idea of an act break for me was I know there are a lot of creators who and a lot of TV writers who hate the structure of an act break. I fucking love it. I wish I could build them into films. I'm pitching this to Warner Brothers right now. We put commercials in the next movie I work on because it gives you a chance to actually, you know, it makes the writing look good. Even if you got fucking nothing, you just bring the music up, crescendo the music, you know, push in, and it's a good moment.